Something else that I'm super happy about is Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, and I've got my review for you right now. This was a trip of a movie to see. I finally got out to see it last weekend, and I kind of knew what to expect from the trailers. It is a multiverse film that Michelle Yeoh is the headliner in. Huy Quan plays her husband, and he hasn't been on screen for a long time. He was Short Round in the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom movie, and I've loved that character, that actor, since then. You know, he's just a phenomenal on-screen presence, and I'm happy to report that the two of them have unbelievably fantastic chemistry. And the idea behind this multiverse, action, adventure, comedy is that Michelle Yeoh's character Evelyn, who's married to Key's character Waymond, is sort of caught up in her work running this laundry, and I think they have a little bit of a diner too, and they're just buried under a mountain of receipts, and they get audited, and her world starts to crack, and it starts to crack in some very interesting ways. She starts to kind of see reflections of herself, and she sees that there are sort of mirror versions of herself. She gets pulled back into this closet, and the multiverse cracks, and she sees that there's a bunch of different paths that she, Evelyn, could have taken to become an infinite number of different types of people. Of course, it blows her mind. She tries to grapple with that and still contend with the banal reality of her life and keep the laundromat going. She's putting together a little party for the community to kind of celebrate everything, which I thought was really sweet. But she is trying to grapple with the fact that she is much more than she's ever realized, and she's got a lot of power. And so the movie has this really crazy, ambitious plot, this whole conceit here, which and it's not a Marvel budgeted film, right? This is kind of an indie developed film by a couple of directors that go by the Daniels. It's two different Daniels that work together on their films. And they managed to get a really nice cast of people, including Jamie Lee Curtis, who's phenomenal in this movie, incredibly weird. But the other thing that they managed to do is really effectively create all of these different variations for these characters and these actors. And so there are tremendous jump cuts between realities, and exceptional work, especially from Michelle Yeoh, who is sort of taken along this path. She's the only one that can kind of understand what is happening, and so she is pivoting and changing, and Neo from the Matrix, like, kind of learning from each of these different variations of herself. And they've managed to sell this multiverse concept in an incredible way, an extraordinary way. And so much of it is down to the framing and the cinematography, and also the editing is unbelievable in this, because we are, jumping from one sequence to another, with the characters in the same sort of head position, but they're on a totally different space, and the background's all different, and they're wearing different costumes, and somehow you don't get lost in this mishmash of plot. It's showy for sure, and it's a bit of a flex the entire film too. It's like, imagine if you gave us a real budget. Imagine what we could do in the Marvel multiverse. You feel like the filmmakers are kind of saying. But everybody is game, and honestly, Michelle Yeoh has been such a phenomenal presence in cinema for so long. It's incredible to see her just own this. She's fantastic as Evelyn, the many variations of Evelyn. She's so competent and confident, except for the characters where she's not, and that disparate kind of quality in her performances is hypnotic. But everybody is great too. Waymond and Evelyn's daughter is fantastic, and there's lots of great little cameos. She's the protagonist, and there are threats that she has to contend with across the multiverse. And it gets very weird and esoteric and larger than life, and there's some interesting effects that happen, and characters kind of dissolve into piles of glitter. There's a sequence where she's got a bunch of hot dogs for her fingers, and you feel like you took magic mushrooms a little bit when you watch this movie, but it's unbelievably entertaining. And I think so much of that credit has to go, obviously, to Michelle Yeoh, but all of the supporting cast, everybody was so game for this. And honestly, I have to give like a special shout out to Huy Quan, who is just phenomenal in this film. You just care about him. He's got a lot of pathos, and he's carrying an emotional weight with him. And one of the cool things that they do with the film too is they kind of reflect on their love story and their history through time. So not only are we bouncing to all of these different realities, we get a sense of their history, the journey that this couple has taken and this family has taken. And I was not prepared for how emotional that was going to make me, and honestly, it's all underscored by a beautiful music soundtrack, which is as crazy and esoteric as the editing is and the storytelling is. James Hong is also in this too. He's phenomenal in this movie. There are even sequences where there's a multiverse and it's a couple of rocks and they're having a conversation, and that was interesting. Like, how do you do that? How do you write and shoot and edit a sequence where two rocks are having an emotional scene? Like, I don't know how you do that, but they did it, and it's amazing. Like, you're watching it in total disbelief, and it's infinitely entertaining. It's really, really a triumph. I feel like this is one to put on your calendar for sure. It's one to source out in movie theaters and get out to see it and support it. But however you do see it, definitely see it. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is so unique and so weird and so special and such a valuable gift, I think, especially because we're talking about multiverses in the DC universe, in the Marvel universe. We're threading television shows and movies and stuff together. We're trying to keep track of all of it, and I'm sure Star Wars is about to drop their own version of the multiverse pretty soon here. But this movie, this little indie movie with a giant heart and an exceptional cast, God, it's wonderful. I'm going to give Everything, Everywhere, All at Once a 9.5 out of 10.